Hello again. SA here. A few days ago, Richard Roundtree died of pancreatic cancer. He was 81 years old. Now, Roundtree had a long acting career, going back almost 50 years. Indeed, the last film he made was just last year with Jane Fonda, though I can't recall the name because I didn't see it. However, the one film that brought him international fame and success was Shaft. And he followed up with two sequels, Shaft's Big Score and Shaft in Africa. All three films I saw when they were new. But this is not about, but I'm not sitting here to basically read off Roundtree's obituary. No, this is something about what Roundtree represented. He was probably the first actor, black actor, who starred in a really kind of rough and tumble kind of role. Now, of course, people who are old enough to know better said, well, hey, what about Sidney Poitier? Or yeah, okay, maybe not him. Almost said Mantan Moreland, but he was a comedian. Yeah, but yeah, there were other black actors for. Uh, but I think his was probably the first, like, you could say, action hero. Because all the black actors that appeared before him either played in drama roles like Poitier or comedy roles like Mantan Moreland. But his appearance on the scene was a change in tone and character in the film industry because his films, by way of Gordon Parks, led to what was referred to as blaxploitation films. Films like Black Caesar, films like Superfly, even though Superfly predated Shaft by a good year or so, and films like Coffee and Cleopatra Jones and Three the Hard Way. And but this is not about even about blaxploitation either, because it was around this time you start seeing other films that used the phrase ethnocentric. For example, the Shaw Brothers, they cranked out a whole bunch of films, primarily karate films, such as the Master of the Flying Guillotine, which is a crazy film. You have to see it to believe it. And then, of course, Bruce Lee, who started out in Hong Kong, came to the United States, made a name for himself by way of the Green Hornet playing Kato. And even though most people don't realize it now, the TV show Kung Fu was a TV show he created for himself. But of course, for some reason, the network gave the job to David Carradine. So there you go. But he went on to make movies like Enter the Dragon and Fist of Fury and stuff like that. But the whole point of this video is this. These films represented, they used the phrase non-white folk stories, where the primary focus was on a non-white character. The blaxploitation films, those karate films. They even had some gay films during that same period, like La Cage aux Folles, a French film, which translates into English as Birds of a Feather. And it was hilarious. I saw it. I laughed out loud. The movie was fucking funny. But anyway, uh, these films represented an organic form of filmmaking. People making stories, making films that Hollywood before never considered, never touched. So so you probably guess now this is almost like a little mini review of movies. Well, yes and no, because what this video actually is about is South Park, namely South Park, the Panderverse. And then you say, oh, you mean those two clowns, dunking on woke Hollywood. Yeah, true. But the thing what people probably don't understand is what those two clowns that make South Park, whose names I can't remember. I think one of the guys' name is Trey Martin, I think. But anyway, what those clowns actually were trying to basically say in that particular South Park episode is that Hollywood of the modern era, of the 2020s, has seemed to have forgotten what came in the past. How in the modern era, Hollywood, instead of making organic films with original stories, because people tend to forget now, Shaft was an original story. It wasn't a remake of an earlier film. They just simply swapped out the damn white actors with black actors. No, 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 no. It was a complete organic story. Just like those Shaw Brothers films were organic stories. And of course, La Cage aux Folles was an organic story. And wait for it, Zoot Suit. The one that Edward James almost cut his teeth on, about the Zoot Suit riots. Yeah, an original story. And then, of course, American Me, another original story about the Hispanic crowd. So then you say, so why is it that Hollywood in the past could make these kind of films, and yet nowadays they seem like they're incapable of doing it? Honestly, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, they even were making feminist films in the past. Remember Norma Ray? Yeah, with I can't remember the woman's name who was in it. I saw the film once. It was all right, but anyway, it was about unions. Or 9 to 5. That movie with Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and Dolly Parton. I saw that film. It was funny. I liked it. So then you say, why can't they make films like that anymore? I don't know. I just don't understand it. Because nowadays, when you see these films, they're basically remakes of older films where they basically swap out the older white actors and replace them with various ethnic types. Black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, whatever. And then you say, why are they doing that? And I think what we have going on in Hollywood is a lack of imagination. And I think that's something that the clowns over at South Park missed. Because in the Panderverse, they basically put all the blame on that woman Kennedy that basically destroyed Star Wars. And of course, the big bosses at Disney, that guy Iger, who's currently running things, I think he's aware that Kennedy woman did ruin Star Wars. She totally, dropped her pants and took a big dump right on George Lucas' legacy. Killed the series. Because I managed to watch those sequel films. Or I watched the first two. But the Rise of Skywalker, I mean, like, couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. No, I couldn't watch it. It was just too horrific. Especially when I saw this video of George Lucas where he was at some school in New York City, and one of the little Rugrats asked Lucas about his Star Wars films. And of course, don't ask Lucas about his Star Wars films because you'll be there all week. And Lucas started talking, and believe me, apparently he loves talking about Star Wars. But then someone who was filming this little exchange, Lucas said something very interesting. He said that he gave Kennedy three, I wouldn't say screenplays, but three outlines of Star Wars. No, what the next three stories supposed to be, and she didn't use them. In fact, she probably may have tossed them in the damn paper shredder before the damn ink was dry in the contract. You know, where he gave up Star Wars to Disney. Yeah. And then he said that in the three segments that he wrote, one of them was where the characters in Star Wars was supposed to find Earth, because you remember what's the preamble to what's the preamble for Star Wars? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So you almost could say that Lucas, he had an idea of giving Star Wars an ending that would be similar to the ending of Battlestar Galactica. And of course, anyone who's seen Battlestar Galactica, the new one, not the original from the 70s, the new one, you know, the one where James Olmos was playing Adama. Yeah, where they eventually get to Earth, and it's back in like not Jurassic period. I think there was no dinosaurs around, but they got there sometime. They never gave a timeline, but it was somewhere after dinosaurs were gone and humans had yet to turn up. But if you watch it, you'll see for yourself. But anyway, and then when Lucas said this, I was thinking, damn, I would have loved to seen his version of the three, you know, episode 7, 8, and 9 instead of ones that Kennedy slapped together. So then, what's that do with the Panderverse? Well, anyway, I think the guys made a mistake. They were basically putting it all on Kennedy. But the thing is, it's not just Kennedy. I mean, all these people in Hollywood, whether it be Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, Columbia Pictures, Universal, they're all doing it. And when you look at what was made in the past and what was being made now, you can only think of that, yeah, these people basically don't know how to make movies anymore. Now, of course, anyone who's basically muddled their way through the cineplexes in recent years can probably testify to that. I mean, good Lord, the number of almost unwatchable films that Hollywood cranks out nowadays. And of course, unlike in the old days, going to a regular movie theater is a really pricey deal. I mean, forget about the ticket prices. I mean, ticket prices are galling. But I mean, what if you just wanted to go in there and get a nice little bucket of popcorn? Not a big one, just a nice one with extra butter on it. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's going to cost you a pretty penny. And don't even ask me about the damn the Mike and Ike's or the Flicks or the Raisinets. I mean, those boxes, which are not as big as they used to be, they're kind of smaller now. I mean, damn, man, you're going to be paying like $5 for that damn candy just by itself. Makes you want to come in there with a duffel bag and bring your own snacks. But I think they probably check nowadays, so you probably can't pull that off. But yeah. So, is there a hope for Hollywood? I don't know. Because not too long ago, I remember reading this article where they spoke about Paramount Pictures and how they said that Paramount Pictures, around the end of the 1990s, its stock value was $10 billion. No, in the 1990s. And you say, well, that sounds about right. Well, then again, in the same article, they said that jump forward 20 years to 2020, you know how much Paramount Pictures stock value was? 15 billion, 20 billion, perhaps even 30 billion? Nope. Know how much Paramount Pictures stock price was in 2020? $10 billion. And then you say, how is it that their stock price has been stagnant for 20 years? The only answer is that they probably made more stinkers than they made winning films. And because of that, what's the word for it? After 20 years of doing that, their stock price probably went up and then down and then went up again and then came right back down to where it started. Yep. And of course, why are these people doing this? The only answer is that you have a bunch of people who are currently working in Hollywood who just don't have good ideas. Now, of course, you could say it's a bunch of wokesters, pushing their agenda, get rid of all the white men and put a bunch of brown people in the movies. But I think it's worse than that, because that woman, Cruthers, you don't know her. I don't know her either. I just know her from Reputation. Who used to run BLM, the corporate BLM. She famously said in an interview not too long ago that she and her homies at BLM were getting money from wealthy, liberal white people with a guilty conscience. And when you listen to that, I'm thinking, so if you're a white person and you're wealthy and you're liberal, does that automatically mean you have a guilty conscience? I don't think so. Because my next door neighbor, Mr. Blair, he's a liberal. He's white. Yeah, he's a college professor. Does that make him rich? Oh, that's a matter of opinion. He probably's got more money than most people, but I wouldn't say he's rolling in dough. But do I consider? Do I say that he's someone who's has a guilty conscience? I never asked him, and I'm not going to either. So Cruthers and her crew obviously were preying upon people who, as used to say in the old days, probably had a few skeletons in the closet. Just saying. Therefore, that probably explains why they got untold millions and millions of dollars from all kinds of corporations, like McDonald's, like General Motors, like, oh my God, Lockheed Martin. You say Lockheed Martin, the people who build weapon systems, yeah, they got money from them too. And why have that money? Good question. And no one ain't talking. BLM ain't talking. That Cruthers woman, she ain't talking. And the IRS, well, if they have tracked down some of that money, they're not talking either. Even though I did read that they are looking for that money, because BLM was supposed to be a charity organization, but according to the news reports I saw, apparently nobody filed the right paperwork. Apparently, if you're going to run a charity in the United States, you had to file the right paperwork in order to be a legal charity, and they didn't do it. And because they didn't file the right paperwork, they had to pay taxes on the money they were raising. But then that's when things went sideways, because apparently the IRS, when they tried to track BLM down, corporate headquarters, something, address, a phone number, they couldn't find these people. They're like, like a dust in the wind. Gone. Disappeared. With the cash. How much cash? It depends who you ask. Some people said it was 60 million. Some people said it was 300 million. Some people said it was like $1 billion. But they can't find the money. They can't find these fools who are running it. But anyway, back to the focus of this video. What's going on in Hollywood right now is a travesty, because when they sit there and remake older films and then race swap the characters for black characters, it shows that these people are not only have no imagination, they have gall and temerity to basically say, you have to watch this film or you're a bigot, or you have to watch this film or you're racist, or if you complain about that we race swapped Ariel from Little Mermaid from a little white girl with a fishtail to a little black girl with a fishtail, then you're racist. And you know what? That's what they've been doing. And you know what? It doesn't work. It's not working at all. And Iger, to his credit, I think he's finally getting the message. Because look what happened recently with the Snow White film that officially they were going to release this year, but now they're putting it on hold. Because they race swapped Snow White for Hispanic chick. Actually, she's half Hispanic. Yeah, her name is what's her name? Zegler, I think her name is. I seen the name. They said it's Austrian, but I think her mother's from Colombia, her father's from Austria, and she's got this name Zegler. I think her name is Rachel Zegler, I think. And the woman's not ugly. I'll concede that. But man, she's got a mouth on her. I mean, they were gonna tell this girl to just don't let her mouth get her ass in trouble. I mean, if someone had told her that once, she would make so much less trouble for herself. I mean, if I was talking to her right now, I'd say, Zegler, don't let your mouth get your ass in trouble. Just don't. You're embarrassing yourself. But anyway, they hired her to be in this movie, and what's the cliche? Buyer's remorse. Iger, I think he realized maybe it wasn't a good idea to hire this girl. Now the question is this: what are they gonna do? Well, it looks like they may have to just take this movie and put it in the can and forget about it, just like what Warner Brothers did last year. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year, where supposedly they financed the making of this film called Batgirl. And according to people who saw the film wasn't just bad, it was horrific. And it wasn't even supposed to be a horror film, it was just horrific. And according to witnesses who saw it, and they blabbed about it all over social media, they said that not only did they race swap Batgirl for a Hispanic chick, but they put a whole bunch of woke messaging in it about the patriarchy, about the evils of a white man, about stolen land and colonization and that kind of nonsense, and all kinds of other woke nonsense. And these business people, remember, Warner Bros. Is a business. They took one look at this film and they basically said, what the fuck is this? So, and according to the people who were whispering, they said that the studio wasted like over $40 million to make this film. So they basically took it and took it as they took the film basically. I don't know. I guess they gave it. I guess they asset washed it and put it in some kind of machine and turned it into like confetti or mulch. But the film is never going to see the light of day. They basically ditched it. They weren't even going to try to release it on home video. They just said, nah, this film is done. And apparently that's what's happening right now with this Snow White film. Because initially they said, okay, we're thinking of trying to reshoot some scenes. And initially they did. and somebody at Disney, maybe it was Iger, maybe someone underneath in the chain of command, released a still photo of where they changed the story, or I should say, changed some of the actors in the story. And let's just say I don't think they really fixed the problem, because initially the film, as it was conceived, this Snow White was going to have this Zegler chick, Hispanic, half Hispanic, and instead of having a bunch of seven dwarves, they had a bunch of characters off the street that weren't dwarves, and to be quite blunt, they basically looked like the Rainbow Coalition. I mean, you had a black man, a black woman, you had, I think, a Hispanic guy, you had, I think, an Asian guy, and I think it may have a couple of gay guys in there somewhere, and maybe a non-binary person. And you take one look and you say, really, dude? And I think Iger said the same thing. He took one look at that thing and he said, really, dude? And therefore they decided to swap out those those diversity hires and replaced it with CGI dwarves. And I'm thinking, I don't think you fixed the problem yet. And then, of course, you already guessing what the problem is. Yeah, that's right. It's the chick in the dress. She's the problem. So are they going to fire her and just hire someone who's more appropriate for the role? Ooh, that can be very, very spicy in modern day Hollywood, especially anyone who's paying attention to the Academy Arts and Sciences, because they changed the rules now. Where if you're a filmmaker and if you want one of those little statuettes that you can definitely kill somebody on the street corner with, I mean, the thing weighs about 10 pounds. It's heavy from what I've read. You have to have a person of color in the lead role, or the senior position behind the camera, director or producer. And you have to have, I think, someone who is a POC, that's a woke speak for person of color, either as one of the screenwriters. And that's not organic. That's not organic. Now, of course, a lot of these people who work in Hollywood, they actually like those little metal statues. And therefore, they have a choice now. They can make the films they want to make and never ever get one of those statues, unless, of course, they follow the parameters that the Academy Arts and Sciences are now putting out there, or they go without. And I think a lot of these people are trapped in what those clowns at South Park basically been accusing them of, pandering. And indeed, not too long ago, Oliver Stone, who's been in Hollywood forever, Jesse Waters asked him about that, because he asked her, he say, hey, you made a lot of films about all sorts of things, like Platoon and JFK and Nixon and The Hand. And you say, The Hand, what's that? It's an old horror film that Oliver Stone made way back when he was just starting out, around, I think it came out in 1980, with Michael Caine, where his hand gets cut off and then his hand starts walking around by itself. Yeah, I saw it, and it was weird. It was strange. It was kind of creepy too. But yeah, but the thing is, Oliver Stone, his films are very organic, very authentic. He basically focuses on subject matter, and then he fills out the casting with the suitable right actors. But in Hollywood of 2020, when he was asked about this, He basically said it was a mistake. And I said, good. At least he said it. But the problem is, what any of these other people in Hollywood say that changing the rules to basically force inorganic setups in films, I don't know. Because from what I've seen about these Hollywood types, they don't come off of me as being particularly brave. And when I mean brave, I'm not talking about the so-called stunning and brave. I mean, good grief, how many times people came out in Hollywood claiming they were gay or non-binary or whatever, even though they weren't really gay or non-binary. They were just, yeah, that's right, pandering. I'm not betting any money on that horse. And I had no real solutions to these people. But guess what? Filmmaking still goes on. Because once you leave Hollywood and go to places like Texas or Tennessee, or go way outside, like, say, South Africa or Eastern Europe. Yeah, Eastern Europe. Or even East Asia, you know, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong. They still make movies. And they make still very good movies too. Indeed, anyone who was paying attention to the Academy Awards not too long ago remembers how that South Korean film, Parasite, got an Academy Award for Best Picture. Yeah. Now, that was an organic film. Of course, it was a South Korean film. So everybody in the film was in Korean, so what expect. But anyway, that just shows organic filmmaking. I mean, they didn't sit there and try to shoehorn a token black person or a token Hispanic or a token white person in the film to have no diversity. No, it's a South Korean film, and they put a bunch of Koreans in there. And that's the way it is. And yet, here in Hollywood, right now, in 2023, these people in Hollywood are not capable of making an organic film where you have a mix of people without shoehorning in characters that don't really fit into the narrative or in the storyline. You know, like Zegler playing Snow White. I mean, that's totally not organic. And indeed, Disney looks like they're about to step in the dog shit again with Hercules, because Jerry from the Quartering, you don't know him, but he studies pop culture stuff. He said recently that Disney is planning on remaking Hercules, you know, the animated film from the 90s, except they want to make a live action version and they want to race swap Hercules with a black character. And I'm thinking, just when you thought Iger had learned his lesson, apparently he hasn't. But according to Journey from the Quartering, it's not set in stone. There's just rumors or whispers about it. And I'm thinking, Iger, if you're looking to this video right now, please just don't. Just don't do it. I mean, if you want to make an organic film with a black character as being heroic, just do what Marvel did and make your own version of Black Panther. Black Panther was okay, and it was organic. You had a black guy who was the leader of a fictional African nation, and he was also a superhero. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, good grief. Richard Roundtree played an organic character, a black detective working in New York in the 1970s. You can't do that. I mean, even Sounder, which was about sharecroppers in the 1920s. That was an organic story about black folks. You mean you can't do that? So yeah, these clowns at South Park, they missed the boat. Yeah, Kennedy, the woman, she, for also a better word, she's a dumb cunt. Okay, I'm saying it. She's a dumb cunt. She messed up Star Wars. Star Wars is ruined forever. It can't be fixed. I mean, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. It's done. It's over. But they should have focused on the fact that you have a lot of, as that Cruthers woman said, a lot of rich, liberal white folks running these studios who are guilty, and this is why they are pandering. Apparently, I guess they got needled one too many times about why is it that your films look like an episode of Friends all the time? All these white folks in there. Why don't you put some black people in your films? And of course, these damn stupid film producers, instead of saying, mind your own fucking business, I'm the studio boss here, I'll make the films I want to make, they're sitting there sounding like damn Porky Pig saying biggie, 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 because they feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. Just make an organic story. Because I'm pretty certain you have a lot of flunkies working at these damn studios. How hard can it be to send some of those flunkies down the street to the Screenwriters Guild building, where they have mountains and mountains of unproduced screenplays? I've seen them. Yeah, years ago they had a program on the local ABC station. They went into the vault and they show mounds and mounds of unproduced screenplays. Some of them going back to the 1930s. And I'm thinking, you mean these studio bosses can't send some of their flunkies down there and look through those old screenplays and find an organic story with no brown people in it, or Hispanic people, or Asian people, or even gay people in it? You mean they can't do that? Instead, they're sitting there turning Hercules into a black guy, or turning Snow White into a Hispanic girl. Reminds me of someone a lot smarter than me once said, a fool and his money are soon parted. And the people in Hollywood are a bunch of fools, and they're sitting there taking huge bags of cash and lighting them on fire. And then the money is gone. Yep, I think there's no hope for these people. No hope at all. But hey, when the big earthquake finally comes and half of California slides into the ocean, filmmaking will still exist. It just won't be happening in Hollywood. Well, that's it for this rant, and that's my opinion.